Hey everyone, we're getting closer and closer to Halloween. Yay! Well, as we do so, we've got a whole shit ton of things that are going on, and out of all of what I could choose, I've decided to focus on the quote unquote reasonable questions for anti SJWs, as presented by Kristi Winters and a few of her buddies. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and tackle this horrendous shitstorm.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
Well, that depends on if it's done intentionally or not, I think. If there was no intent to be that way, then yes, it would be considered ironic. However, a lot of us do it on purpose uh, as part of the joke when we do this kind of stuff with you guys. That's not necessarily ironic, it's more satirical.
What is it with you people and skulls?
What is it with you in One Direction? Furthermore, what does this random bald guy have to do with skulls? Do you have a problem with bald men or something?
How do you define right-wing? Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Alright, so let's focus at this one question at a time. The first part, define right wing. Well, those are the people who tend to go more conservative than liberal, those who are more likely to vote Republican than Democrats. Um, yeah, so there's the simple answer for that one. Um, the anti-SJWs who don't like being referred to as right wing, well, that should be obvious. It's probably because they themselves see themselves as left wingers. Being an anti SJW has nothing to do with a political affiliation. Now, from what I've seen, that is the case with SJWs. They do tend to be left wingers. I mean, there's probably some who are on the right, but I usually don't see that. And as for being an anti-SJW, I actually see more of us on the left than on the right as well. I am one of those exceptions. I have no problem with being called a right-winger because I take that on with pride. Um, as for why we defend the right and bash the left, as you've kind of put it, um, oftentimes that's because you psychopaths will say the dumbest things, the most incorrect things, and the most hateful things involving those who are on the right, be it because they're on the right or because they said a certain thing. And we will defend those things depending on what the situation is. I'll probably be more likely to do it because I agree with them politically speaking, but even the ones who are on the left that are anti-SJWs, they will pretty much only do it if they feel like that what's going on is more of the correct. So, they're not stupid blind sheep like you guys are. As for why the label is bad, as I said, because for those that it's applicable to, it's inaccurate. Okay? It would be no different than if I were to call you a racist, sexist piece of shit because you're a white male. I mean, are you a racist, sexist piece of shit just because you're a white male? I don't think that. I mean, I don't even know who the fuck you are, and I don't think that. You know? And as for the pejorative, that's not really the reason. Although, personally speaking, I don't really care if you refer to me as a right-winger, because as I said earlier, I am one. I don't consider it to be an insult. I consider it to be a badge of honor. Um, I do that kind of shit to you people on the left all the fucking time.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Well, from what I've seen and from what I know, the drinking of the bleach thing is actually done for us. Basically, we'd rather drink bleach and die than listen to your mindless ramblings that you SJWs seem to insist on doing. Um, and also, whenever we do try to have any of these conversations with you guys, we're constantly interrupted, we're constantly insulted, we're constantly threatened, constantly misquoted, and later on, we have our names dragged through the mud if we're lucky. If you can agree to be a rational human being, we have no problem with an honest conversation.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
First off, fuck Twitter. I don't use that shit site. Second, you clearly don't understand the differences between debates and trolling. Just because someone can debate, and even debate well, it doesn't mean that they can't troll the opposition from time to time. I mean, take a look at President Obama. Using rationale is good and even vital for a debate, but it's not necessary for trolling people.
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
Seriously, what is it with you and One Direction? I do like your typewriter, though.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had, and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
So would it be better if we were to call you a rape apologist, then? Or how about a racist bigot? Or how about a right-winger? Why can you insult us with stupid catchphrases and shit like that with no meaning anymore, but we can't do the same to you?
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
For the last time, what is up with you in One Direction? But going on topic, something that apparently you can't seem to do, one example does not a group make. I mean, if we're going to do something petty like this, how about Valerie Solanas, who attempted to kill Andy Warhol and successfully killed Mario Amaya, was admitted to a mental hospital, then continued to stalk Andy Warhol until she fucking died? How about the countless screeching harpies that shut down MRA events, or those who demand that accused rapists be castrated and refuse to apologize when it's discovered that there never was a rape? Huh? Looks like you guys have the bigger problems to sort through than we do. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I don't know how many of you people who've been watching replies to this video are aware of this, but they've actually categorized these questions. That first group was general questions, and this upcoming one is feminism specifically. So let's hear these cancerous questions of cancer.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
Okay, for example? I mean, we take on whatever it is that you shove in our faces and destroy your arguments soundly. So if you have a specific topic that you'd like to cover, present it to us. Then we can destroy it for you, or hell, who knows, maybe even agree with you on something.
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So yeah.
So finally we get to something that I consider to be actually a worthwhile topic. But to answer your question, first of all, we actually do quite a bit. You know, it's often something that we encourage of anybody to do, and that's part of why we consider us, well, why some of us consider ourselves to be egalitarians rather than feminists. You know, that concept that a lot of feminists don't seem to understand. We think about more than just elevating women. We also think about elevating men, because believe it or not, our lives suck too, and you in particular, you seem to fucking get it. So, you know what, I would definitely have no problem with doing anything with you to help address the issue, to try to look for solutions. So, you know what? based off of this one question, I kind of like you so far. So yeah, let's do it.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
Yay! Steve Shive's wife is letting him play. Woo! Welcome to the party, Steve. Let's see how long it takes before you figure out my existence and block me for some sort of irrational reason. But you know what? I'm going to show you something real quick, just to kind of help you out a little bit there, buddy. So this right here shows a pretty decent separation between first, second, and third waves. Notice how they don't really go into time periods that often. I mean, they do for the suffrage, but that's about it. There's a few things that I would slightly alter for my own personal definition, but here it is, and I'm sorry, Steve, I'm not going to go over the whole thing for you. I don't want this to be a ramble session. But to give a little bit more detail involving third waivers, it's the version that wants to push for safe spaces even when they're not necessary, redefining rape to make it more challenging for women to go to jail, but also easier to get men to go to jail. There's also that they're wanting to have men go to jail just simply for being accused of rape, with the exception of former President Bill Clinton. They're opposing to men having a voice regarding their needs as well. They take everything that second waivers did and said to the extreme, even the extreme ones, and complaining about the things that they personally think they failed at. They oppose our rights to jack off to porn while supporting a teenage girl getting fucked by as many males as she wants to. They vehemently attack video games that they've never even played. They bully government agencies into doing their bidding online, suing everyone they disagree with, demonizing boys for doing anything boyish. Need I go on? And honestly, I have a problem with feminism as a whole. Sometimes they have things that are worth bringing up, and oftentimes they have stuff that I don't agree with, and that tends to be something that's coming up more and more frequently, and you're not exactly helping convince me to change my mind on that.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
First off, we don't say that she represents all of you, but she is an example of your most extreme and extremely funny members. Secondly, what makes you so sure that this guy's an MRA? Maybe he's just sick of some woman's bullshit. I mean, the caption did say that he was just throwing a bitch fit because of something that they didn't have at McDonald's. You know, that's a pretty weak example. I know that you can find better examples of asshole MRAs and MRAs who are a joke. That is a terrible example.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
Well, my guess is that since you are on their side in general, you may have some ability to understand their reasonings. To be fair, many feminists already do that. Take this list, for example. But back to your point, you do realize that you don't have to answer those questions, right? Or at the very least, you can tell these people to ask said feminists.
If SDUs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just, how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining forever for a living. That's healthy.
I'm assuming that you don't listen to what we have to say much, because that's exactly what we do. Okay, I'm not going to do that Scottish accent anymore. I'm assuming that you don't listen to what we have to say that much, because we actually do. That's part of why some of us anti-SJWs are also categorized as MRAs, egalitarians, and other things like that. Your scale should go like this. 1. Real problems. And instead of being quoted, it should be all capitalized because we're talking about legit shit. 2. How to solve them. 3. SJWs whining about stupid shit like trolling on Twitter. 4. One Direction. I hope this helps.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
What are you talking about? Okay, you're apparently confusing serious topic conversations, which we do, versus compilation videos of psychopathic nut jobs who are feminists going apeshit in public. You know, I mean, believe it or not, watching some girl at a university go, while she's throwing around a garbage can, all because there's some guys who disagree with her on something, is hilarious. And there's a shit ton of that stuff out there, so putting it all together is all the more funny. Humor. I know you guys really aren't that good at it, but trust me, it's hilarious. And when we want to do something that is more on the academia side, believe me, we do it, and we do it well.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
And I'm curious as to why it is that you look so sickly. I mean, are you a vegan? Does your wife not feed you as often as she should? I mean, what's the deal with that? I mean, you almost look like you're taking drugs or something. But to seriously answer your question, this doesn't really apply to me because fuck feminism, honestly. There are no feminists that I admire that much. Not enough to actually read their books. Certainly not for fun. I mean, anything that I have read, it's because I was forced to for school assignments and stuff like that. Fuck, the closest thing that I could think of is Christina Hoff Sommers. I mean, and that's mostly because she actually sides with men on some issues, which you feminists seem to disagree with. And she's also debunked the wage gap myth multiple times. Another thing that you feminists don't seem to agree with. I mean, if on anything, she's more like an egalitarian. So maybe that's why I like her. By the way, Steve, who do you like other than your wife, and why? Honestly, based off of what you said before, I'm guessing Andrea Dworkin. I think that's how you say her name. Dworkin. D-W-O-R-K-I-N. Dworkin.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
Yeah, no shit. We do that already, but you're too brainwashed to accept our realistic critiquings. Why don't you try doing the same thing every now and then, and also try listening to an entire conversation, and don't be altering people's videos just to make them sound more evil. Try doing that. Oh, and on a side note, why are you trying to look like a 1970s porn star?
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Does it maybe? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games. Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but I can't actually destroy video games. That doesn't make any sense.
Alright, so regarding the first part, we've proven with actual numbers and math instead of phantom nightmares that what feminists claim regarding sexual assault is completely bogus. The fact that you are blindly dismissing them is why you think we anti-SJWs don't want to talk to you. You shut us down without an intelligent thought. As for Anita, well, why is it her goal in life to ruin something that millions of people around the world enjoy? Something that does no harm at all. Something that has many categories and subcategories. Something that she is duping thousands and even millions of bigots out of their money to make hate videos about, involving things that she clearly doesn't understand. I think you'd be singing a different tune if she were trying to get One Direction banned. And please stop trying to be funny. You're not very good at it. Alright, so since I don't want this to go on too much longer, I'm going to stop it now and make another video covering the other two categories, which is discrimination and more general questions, because they love to generalize, I guess. So, see you guys soon in the next video.